I know of no one who has ever made this claim before, but I rather suspect that my experience is not unique. What perhaps is unique is the fact that I am willing to talk about it. We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
It's New York City. It's March 7th.
Well, partly it's taken to these very strange images that are behind your head right now. These are pictures of equations. I've been, for the last 15 years, trying to answer the kinds of questions that my colleagues have been raising. And what I've come to understand is that there are these incredible pictures that contain all the information of a set of equations that are related to string theory. And it's even more bizarre than that, because when you then try to understand these pictures, you find out that buried in them are computer codes just like the type that you find in a browser when you go surf the web.
You're saying your attempt to understand the fundamental operations of nature leads you to a set of equations that are indistinguishable from the equations that drive search engines and browsers on our computers.
That is correct. So
wait, I have to just be silent for a minute here. So you're saying as you dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos?
Into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos, yes.
Computer code?
Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
It's not just sort of resembles computer code. You're saying it is computer code.
It's not even just is computer code. It's a special kind of computer code that was invented by a scientist named Claude Shannon in the 1940s. That's what we find very, very deeply inside the equations that occur in string theory and in general in systems that we could say are supersymmetric.
That I'm willing to talk about it. We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed.
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything we need.
Right now, we're inside a computer program?
Is it really so hard to believe?
Permission to speak freely, sir.
I welcome it.
do you? Okay, then. Are you out of your fucking mind?
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
It's the non-physical, is what he was talking about. Now, next came Nick Bostrom, and he had his PhD from this very institution, from London School of Economics. He's now at Oxford. He was at Princeton, I believe, and he's another physicist. He's a physicist and a philosopher, has degrees in both. He wrote a paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? And he just went through it logically, and he found that it was impossible to say that it was impossible. Then he found out that it was unlikely to say that it was unlikely. That left him with the conclusion that certainly almost all of us are living in a simulation. He said it was very likely. I mean, now in his mind, the simulation is done from some other physical thing that's outside of what's physical. So he wouldn't say that it's non-physical, but that's where it lands. It's beyond, it's some other physical place besides ours. That's how physicists say non-physical without using that word. So that was his conclusion.
That consciousness may indeed survive.
Well, there are many odd ways in which consciousness could survive, and you can make a philosophically respectable argument that consciousness could survive the death of the brain. It's by no means the majority opinion in neuroscience or philosophy that it would. For instance, there's a philosopher at Oxford, Nick Bostrom. This is one of the weirder arguments, but still more plausible than the arguments you get from religion. Nick, there's actually very little you have to assume to make this seem somewhat robust. The argument is called the simulation argument, and he argues that we are all very likely not living in a real universe, but living in a simulated universe. And we are being simulated on the hard drives of computers of the future. Now he gets there with a few simple steps. You simply have to acknowledge that consciousness is at bottom the result of information processing at the level of the brain, and there's nothing magical about brains. It could be information processing in a computer of the future. Most scientists think that's true. They don't think there's anything magical about the wet stuff in our heads, and that consciousness is at some point going to be instantiated in computers. Then you simply have to grant that humans of the future will run simulations of the past in the way that we run simulations, Sims games, and then there's just one short move that simulated universes, almost by definition, will outnumber real universes, and therefore we are a lot more likely to be among the simulated ancestors than the real ancestors. Now, again, everyone acknowledges it seems a little crazy, but the assumptions that you have to take on board are not so weak. And I would add to this the somewhat disconcerting idea that if in fact we are running as a simulation on a computer of the future, this computer could have been built by Mormons or Scientologists who would want to simulate the truth of their religion. And therefore all religions could be true in this simulated universe, and we could expect to see Jesus coming back on clouds of glory and moving to Missouri as the Mormons expect.
This is an argument that tries to show that at least one of three propositions is true, although it doesn't tell us which of these three. The three propositions in question is first, that almost all civilizations at our stage of technological development go extinct before they reach technological maturity. So that's the first possibility. A second possibility is that there is a very strong convergence among all technologically mature civilizations, in that they all lose interest in creating ancestor simulations, as I call them. These would be very detailed computer simulations of people like their historical forebears, detailed enough that the simulated people in these simulations would be conscious. So the second possibility is that they just lose interest in doing this. And the third possibility is that we are almost certainly living in a simulation. So there's this argument that shows that one of these three is true. And the full argument involves some probability theory, but the basic idea can be grasped quite simply, which is that suppose it were the case that the first possibility did not obtain. So then some non-trivial fraction of civilizations at our stage eventually reach technological maturity. Then suppose the second possibility also does not obtain. So some non-negligible fraction of those mature civilizations are still interested in using the resources to running ancestor simulations. You can then show that because each mature civilization that devoted some resources to this purpose could run astronomical numbers of ancestor simulations, you can show that if the first two possibilities do not obtain, then there will be many, many more simulated people like us than there will be non-simulated people like us. In other words, almost all people with our kinds of experiences would be living inside simulations rather than outside them, if the first two possibilities are false. And conditional on that, we should therefore think we are probably one of the typical simulated people rather than one of the exceptional non-simulated people. So the structure of the argument then is that if you reject the first two hypotheses, then the third one follows, which then means you can coherently reject all three. That's the structure of the simulation argument. There's a further possibility that if you have a simulated civilization, that simulated civilization might, inside the simulation, develop the technology to run its own simulations. And you might then have a kind of nested simulation, with simulation inside the simulation. You might have many levels of simulation. But that's an optional extra. The basic simulation argument doesn't presuppose that. It's just that if you extrapolate the kind of computing power that an advanced civilization will eventually have, and you figure if they would use some of that immense computing power to running simulations, they could run an astronomical number of them. So therefore, in that scenario, most people with our kinds of experiences would be among the simulated people, because for each original history, there would then be maybe millions or billions of simulated histories.
The physical reality is best modeled as a virtual digital reality. That's how it's modeled in My Big Toe. And consciousness is best modeled as a digital information system. Okay. We're going to do physics first, and then we'll do metaphysics. Physics. The main piece of physics that is probing at the fundamentals of reality right now is quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics basically sees particles as probability distributions. It sees the fundamentals of our existence as a probability distribution. You've probably heard of the double slit experiment. It's kind of a famous thing in physics, but some of you probably not physicists.
An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter, through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system. Have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Are you listening to me, Neo? Look again. Freeze it.
We're gathered here today to focus on some of the ills of the country, the world, and the media, and the real story behind what's really going on. I call this speech, What Really is the Matrix? Because so many things in the Matrix are so strikingly similar to what we are experiencing today. You're about to embark on a remarkable journey that some of you are not ready for. In the general idea of the Matrix, the characters live in an illusion, a lie that has been pulled over their eyes to blind them from the truth. The truth that they are slaves to a system that they cannot see, taste, touch, or even smell.
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
And as this day unfolds, you will see that our lives are not very far from those of the characters inside the Matrix. Ladies and gentlemen,
the notion that humanity might be living in an artificial reality, a simulated universe, seemed sophomoric, at best science fiction. But speaking with scientists and philosophers, I realized that the notion that everything humans see and know is a gigantic computer game of sorts, the creation of super smart hackers, existing somewhere else is not a joke. Exploring a whole world simulation, I discovered, is a deep probe of reality. In contemporary versions, Brin said, it may be the year 2050, and people are living in a computer simulation of what life was like in the early 21st century, or it may be billions of years from now, and people are in a simulation of what primitive planets and people were once like. Philosopher Nick Bostrom, director of the Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford University, describes a fake universe as a richly detailed software simulation of people, including their historical predecessors, by a very technologically advanced civilization. It's like the movie The Matrix, Bostrom said, except that instead of having brains in vats that are fed by sensory inputs from a simulator, the brains themselves would also be part of the simulation. It would be one big computer program simulating everything, including human brains down to neurons and synapses. Bostrom is not saying that humanity is living in such a simulation. Rather, his simulation argument seeks to show that one of three possible scenarios must be true, assuming there are other intelligent civilizations. 1. All civilizations become extinct before becoming technologically mature. 2. All technologically mature civilizations lose interest in creating simulations. 3. Humanity is literally living in a computer simulation. His point is that all cosmic civilizations either disappear, for example, destroy themselves, before becoming technologically capable. Kurzweil's worldview is based on the profound implications of what happens over time when computing power grows exponentially. To Kurzweil, a precise simulation is not meaningfully different from real reality. Corroborating the evidence that this universe runs on a computer, he says, is that physical laws are sets of computational processes and information is constantly changing, being manipulated, running on some computational substrate. And that would mean, he concluded, the universe is a computer. He also said he considers himself to be a pattern of information. If people are in a whole world simulation, how could they know it? Brin suggests a backdoor in the simulation program that would enable the alleged programmers to control people, much like countries accuse each other of installing backdoors in code to conduct espionage. If we are living in a simulation, then everything is software, including every atom in our bodies, Brin said, and there may be backdoors that the programmers left ajar. I asked Marvin Minsky, a legendary founder of artificial intelligence, to distinguish among three kinds of simulations: brains in vats, universal simulation as pure software, and universal simulation as real physical stuff. It would be very hard to distinguish among those, Minsky said, unless the programmer has made some slips. If you notice that some laws of physics aren't quite right, if you find rounding off errors, you might sense some of the grain of the computer showing through. If that were the case, he says, it would mean that the universe is easier to understand than scientists had imagined, and that they might even find ways to change it so, because we can simulate some cosmic features in a gross sense, we have to ask, as computers become vastly more powerful, what more could we simulate? It's not crazy to believe that sometime in the far future, he said, there could be computers which could simulate a fairly large fraction of a world. A prime assumption of all simulation theories is that consciousness, the inner sense of awareness, like the sound of Gershwin or the smell of garlic, can be simulated. In other words, that a replication of the complete physical states of the brain will yield, ipso facto, the complete mental states of the mind. This direct correspondence usually assumes, unknowingly, the veracity of what's known in philosophy of mind as identity theory, one among many competing theories seeking to solve the intractable mind-body problem. I find 5 premises to the simulation argument. 1. Other intelligent civilizations exist. 2. Their technologies grow exponentially. 3. They do not all go extinct. 4. There is no universal ban or barrier for running simulations. And 5. Consciousness can be simulated. If these 5 premises are true, I agree, humanity is likely living in a simulation. The logic seems sound, which means that if you don't accept, or don't want to accept, the conclusion, then you must reject at least one of the premises. Which to reject? Other intelligent civilizations? Exponential growth of technology? Not all civilizations going extinct? No simulations ban or barrier? Consciousness simulated? Whichever you choose, it must apply always, everywhere, for all time.
The Matrix site, this is a different form, like I said, what I'm going on about. Like I said, briefly, what I talked about the Matrix, as I said, it's a philosophy and theory. Philosophy theory is the method I use to say I don't believe it's true. I'm not saying I believe it's true. I'm saying it's a possibility, probability, that's the theory. It's a philosophy-based film based on from the Wachowski brothers. A novel film, The Matrix, decrypted from the Animatrix and Matrix theories which are put together. Months of research behind the sci-fi film Animatrix and Matrix, philosophy and theory behind the Matrix, how it would work. Ignore page numbers, as I said, the digital simulation, Matrix theory and philosophy, which is an algebraic form of different numbers of what a matrix is. Another form is the example of digital numbers, binary, ones and zeros, also known as the matrix, algebraic matrix of ones and zeros, or many other forms of numbers. Simulation based in the real world theory, a string of mathematical signals which form objects in a neuron-active based dream. Signals by our brains, which is the neurons underneath our temples and our brain, which would be pads inside a simulation. The theory science fiction based. It's all around us, even in this very room, as you can see it everywhere. Morpheus quotation.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch.
The greatest form of control is where you think you're free, when you're being fundamentally manipulated and dictated to. One form of dictatorship is being in a prison cell and you can see the bars and touch it. The other one is sitting in a prison cell but you can't see the bar, you think you're free.
A prison for your mind.
That was basically what I was trying to explain in that one. Second one is just the Matrix physics test, which I'll put online, just to explain, to question. Matrix simulation explained, objects, tables, cars, textures, etc. What would show an X-ray view of a book sitting on a round table. Matrix grid frame code, as would be in a simulation and architectural view. A mathematical equation of numerals, usually known as ones and zeros. DARPA's program Matrix tied to the 4 senses, plus DARPA's brain chip implant, how it would work in the simulation room. Neurons would analyse the textures, senses through our nerves, sense, taste, touch, sense and smell. Then record those textures onto that chip inside the back of our brain. DARPA's program would then replicate the textures of those objects and copy them. Bricks, papers, stone, water, etc. Everything. Eyes, perspective, sight, eyes. Eyes perception, seeing an apple with DARPA's Matrix, this would replicate into a dream to taste, touch, sense and smell it. Like I said, this was based off these things which actually exist at the moment, the DARPA chip and the DARPA Matrix program, which are found on their site. which they've actually declassified themselves online. You see it a lot on YouTube, and how that would work. So the Matrix network would already exist. You go on DARPA, DARPA.net or something, but you'll look for it, type in search, you'll find that it already does. It's like a prison. You can taste, touch, sense and smell. It's a prison for your mind. It's psychologically based.
Never had a dream that you were so sure was real. What if you were unable to wake from that dream?
How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world? Philosophy and theory tied to the mind trick, or the mind, the Matrix itself. A coma-type induced dream state of the real world, which is tied to the Matrix movie and the DARPA network connection. Matrix simulation of the real world replicated, 3-dimensional or 4 or 5 high graphics with neuron interaction. And a Matrix quote which ties to what DARPA's Matrix network shows. And man said, "Let there be light." He was blessed by light, heat, gravity and magnetism.
And man said, "Let there be light." And he was blessed by light, heat, magnetism, gravity, and all the energies of the universe.
Magnetism, electricity, magnets, like I said, light, which is like a copy of a replication or a copy of the actual sun. Heat, also heat from the sun or heat from heat, is gravity, which is basically gravity itself, physics, tied to how our brains would work. Bioelectrics, which is the electric signals from our brain.
The human body generates more bioelectricity than a 120-volt battery and over 25,000 BTUs of body heat. Combined with a form of fusion, the machines had found all the energy they would ever need.
Every moment of every day, your heart is having a conversation with your brain. Every human heart, around the heart, is a field of energy. 5 to 8 feet, 2 to 3 meters diameter. And this field of energy can be measured now in ways that make it very useful to us. The Institute of Heart Math has designed equipment that will help us to measure this field. Every moment of every day, your heart is sending signals to your brain, telling your brain what kind of energy to send to your body. Every moment of every day, there is a signal from your heart to your brain. What we now know is, when I was in school and when many of our listeners were in school, we were taught that this is a physical reality made of atoms, and our atoms would look like little solar systems. They were modeled as little solar systems, things in the middle called a nucleus with other things orbiting them like electrons. And those days are long gone. We now look at atoms rather than things orbiting around other things. We look at them as concentrations of energy in space and time, where there are no clear-cut things. Now, where this gets important is that scientists, and this is in the standard physics textbooks, this is no surprise what I'm about to say, is that if you change the field of energy that the atom lives in, you change the atom. You can change that field electrically, or you can change it magnetically. And there are terms for the effects. The Zeeman effect, the Stark effect are well-documented effects of electrical and magnetic changes in the field that change the atom. Where, while it sounds technical and maybe not relevant, where it gets really relevant very fast is our hearts are the strongest bioelectrical and magnetic field generators in our bodies. Our hearts generate stronger electrical fields than our brains. They generate stronger magnetic fields than our brains. Our hearts are 5,000 times as powerful magnetically than our brains. And we hear about EKGs of our hearts. They're up to 100 times stronger than the EEG, the electrical information in our brains.
Taste, touch, sense and smell, which go for our neurons. Our neurons in our brains underneath for our temples of our skull. Where our brain is, those neurons, I believe, are what go for the neurons of, possibly, I believe, is how we taste, touch, sense and smell. I know there is a part of our brain which does anyway, that tells us everything we're feeling and touching. The example from two sides, the first pic is a real-time, first-person view from your eyes through neuron internal, which is inside patches. A DARPA chip inside your brain is connected internally inside your brain to pads on your neurons inside underneath your skull as well via surgery. It records and logs the right senses in physics. It replicates them into a computer done whilst awake. Boys are known to do a similar, but without the neurointeractive basis of how they copy the physics, the weight of cars and stuff. They also do the same sort of thing. What DARPA's is, it's basically more physically based, where you go into a dream and you can feel these in a replication of the real world. The second pig is the architectural scan view from the real time, which copies what your neurons would copy to that chip in the back of your brain. It copies neuron to brain, brain to computer. What you tasted and smelled, what the weight of the book was on the table and the mug, the physics, your weight from your body versus what your body, holds you down with your own weight. When you walk around with 10 stones or whatever it is, 300 pounds or whatever you want to metrically do it as. Light glare from bulbs, feeling of textures such as wood, plastic, glass, skin, etc. Matrix DARPA is or was a program used on the simulation of the real life, where you can go into a coma-based dream to experience a replication of real life. Digital projections explained, no different to our digital projection of ourselves. The Animatrix machines would also have a digital projection disguised as human form in the Matrix. What shows the pad in our skull, so if we're in this Matrix simulation, as Morpheus explains.
It is the mental projection of your digital self.
And what we are, we're receiver transmitters of information. And this reality is basically what I call it the holographic internet. We are receiving information and we are decoding it into this reality. We're like computers in a Wi-Fi internet situation. The matrix, the reality we're decoding, is actually all around us. Just like the Wi-Fi is all around us in this room. We can't see it, but when we decode it, suddenly it becomes a room. It appears to be solid. Now, this room can't be solid because it's made up of atoms, and atoms have no solidity. This is the great bewildering conundrum that scientists have. And the reason they can't work out how something solid can be made out of a non-solid thing like atoms is because this isn't solid. This appears solid because that's decoded that way through the mind.
This isn't real. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
The digital projection of our real self, no different to what the machines would be able to do. The example was Agent Smith, as I said, as always explained, is basically a machine. It's not even a person in a dream. And like I said, it's projecting itself as someone in skin form, human form, that if you shook his hand, you'd feel the skin on his hand and stuff. But outside in the real world, it'd be that big mainframe machine, which Neo fights without being plugged in, of what it would really be. With us, it would be us asleep in those pods, our digital selves projecting as we are now. Like I said, that was the example. Then the question, a rhetorical question, when people say poo, sounds funny, but are they subconsciously pronouncing a pod? As I said, subconsciously sensing that they're in a pod. And like I said, I've heard my nephew say it a few times. I did anyway, say poo or whatever. And sometimes people do say, is it a thing that people subconsciously, as it sounds close, looks like it's spelled similar, in capitals anyway, it's the pod. Think about the kid on the Shining film, where it says red rum, where it's subconsciously thinking of murder, which it shows in the end is the word murder itself. Is it no different to kids when they say poo, that subconsciously sensing pod, P-O-D, not P-O-O. It sounds funny in some form, but it's also a serious side to question. Morpheus construct seeing this as a digital projection of yourself and myself, mathematical signals, ones and zeros, or a binary code, interpreted by your neurons in your brain, same as AI, but robotic consciousness. How would you know the difference between a real person and an artificial one in the Matrix if this was the case? example of the philosophy and theory of people and I in the matrix of optical illusion. Insert of objects in the matrix, that was would be done via software, like a game, cheat or mod. If they're not real, you think that's real. Air you're breathing right now, example. It's not real, it's a software coin. Or it's not real, it's a simulation based off the chip of a imitated oxygen or whatever. Copied from a real coin. And then replicated, copied into a simulation. A coin could be replicated and copied in the matrix. Like a germ, it can copy and multiply in the forms of biology. But this is the application of technology itself. Copied from what the coin looks like through the eyes of a person, and in their hands in the physics via that DARPA chip. And then replicated as many times. The example is those Tony Hawk's games, as I mentioned, where you can replicate and copy as many ramps as you want, and then place them as many as you want into that game. This would be that, but neuron based, with higher advanced graphics in the forms of coins, chairs, anything. And that was the example of that one. How the temperature, wind, etc. would work. Like I said, it was based off what the Oracle mentions on the Matrix film. She says there's a program to govern the wind, the trees, the sunrise, the sunset.
Look, see those birds? At some point, a program was written to govern them. A program was written to watch over the trees and the wind, sunrise and sunset. There are programs running all over the place. The ones doing their job, doing what they were meant to do, are invisible. You'd never even know they were here. But the other ones, well, you hear about them all the time.
Temperature. Basically, there's a program for everything that controls everything. The theory came along, like I said, as if there was a separate grid pattern form between, say, your front door and your inside, where it's cold outside, and you've got the heating on inside. There would be like a separate grid forming pattern, no different to a computer game, even though you don't feel the heat. But you know, like Watch Dogs, if the lights are on inside Aidan Pierce's apartment when he goes outside and it's sunny at night time, that would basically be a grid form programming from a computer game, where it shows that itself. Now, in a neural, highly advanced computer simulation compared to that, theoretically it'd be the same. There'd be like a grid pattern form between the inside and outside to change the temperature. The general outside would be how it would be in a certain part of the country or area of town or wherever it would be. And there would be different forms of how they would be controlled. And like I said, that's basically what that explained, just the different coding for cold and warmth. Like a program that controls random AI figures on GTA games. You know, the characters you see walking around, they talk, they stop and talk to each other, they do their own thing. But when you play on the career, no different to that one, which would be sentient programs in matrix form. What the DARPA chip would learn is sense of temperature from our brains, then able to alter from hot and cold from neuron pads underneath our skull. There would be the cold rush effect from going inside to outside if it's cold, plus gusts of cold air or wind, which would have been learned from the analysis of being on our brains in the real world. If you take the Matrix film theory aside, but DARPA's program on that would work. Just like GTA games, where one part of a console game controls AI, artificial intelligent characters around it, this would be for AI. Animals, nature, including cash machines, traffic lights, etc. The most skeptical was based on how DARPA would simulate smell, which I agreed sounds the hardest to believe. If they can record the textures of objects, touch base, since copy the 3D/4D basis of objects visual, replicate, which is copy the physics of cars, weight, people, copy the taste of chicken, chocolate, vegetables, then they would be able to theoretically simulate, replicate the smell through the chip in a person's hand. Theoretically, you need to know the smell of food to taste it. This is why people say to hold your nose when smelling something strong, or being given something like cough medicine, which I was told as a kid. Therefore, they could replicate smell basically to answer the question. Underneath is the example, like a drawing of what it looks like based off DARPA's own declassified stuff, which shows the neuron pads around the sides of the brain connected to wires around the edge of our brains, and then the chip at the back of the brain, which would replicate, i.e. copy, eyesight, nose, smell, taste, touch, sense of smell. that chip would analyse and go into their own system, and then develop the simulation of weight, etc., physics, every single thing like that, in theory anyway. Like I said, similarities between our world and the Matrix, which the American man himself explains, and what really is the Matrix. Similarities is games, consoles and computers. It's a computer world. We've got the PC world franchise here in Britain. Binary code, ones and zeros, which is used in our internet, plus our telecommunications, which is part of the Matrix itself. Artificial intelligence, IS mode, the Honda robot, self-service checkouts, Xbox characters, PlayStation characters, Siri, AI, phone voice, Cortana, Nokia, phone voice, AI. Hybrid cars, which are for electric cars, TomTom, SatNav, artificial intelligence, voice, self-service checkouts, systems, solar system, prison system, bank system, governmental computer system, etc. Many digital money transfers, PayPal, direct debit, credit cards, all these things exist as well in comparison, in relation to the Matrix itself. Like I said, that was the example there. Matrix grid frame architecture theory explained the Matrix would be or is like a dream. You have it subconsciously but where it's a plugged in type dream, not a random dream. Once you wake up and you realise it was a dream. Every time you go to sleep, you're basically in a dream within a dream. In a dream when you have that dream. It's quite complex, but as simple as possible. It would be a digital grid frame, first person view controlled dream. Basically everything around you is controlled, not your own self. Based on the real world, based on the machine theory where they would have replicated where it would be the 31st century, but they're based on the 21st part of the illusion, where they would have salvaged this to keep them alive. Left side shows the X-ray type architecture type view of the right picture, basically like an X-ray vision of what we wouldn't be able to see whilst you're in this dream. Like I said, in a random dream in real life, it would just be based on what your subconscious had collected and what it feels. In a random dream in the Matrix, it's a digital projection, therefore everything around you would be controlled in digital form to make you believe you're in the real world. And because it's not a random dream, you would be believing everything you saw, taste, touch and smell was real. Neural interactive virtual reality simulation, where you can taste, touch, sense, smell everything inside it based on your neurons, sense-based part of your brain, where nerves, etc. report back to everything. Like I said, you have food poison in your stomach, reports back to say you need to throw up because it knows there's poison, it's been poisoned. Any other part of your body, your heart tells to change its heartbeat rate, or all your organs speak to your brain as the main computer in your body in biological form. Everything it's the rest of the body is feeling. Basically, this is what that's based on. The picture underneath skeletal architecture, like games like Watch Dogs or GTA, as seen in GTA or Watch Dogs game on pause mode. The building's characters have a skeleton grid form of what they look like, where layers and textures usually cover them until you put pause on a Watch Dogs. The Matrix would be this, but a dream, where you can't see that grid form, and then you're projected through whilst you're in a coma state, which is a continuous sleep inside a pod coma state, and you wouldn't realise you're in the Matrix dream world. Skeletal grid example, which layers of colours over them. Computer developers, like I said, you remember the Trinity scene on Matrix Revolutions, where she goes off the multi-storey building on the motorbike, where she mentions I'm in. It shows Carrie Houghton, I believe, the female, plays Trinity in that green pattern form, and that's basically what we would look like in that Matrix. In a green grid form, which would show the real view in that Matrix simulation, just as ourselves, digital projection, as Morpheus explains himself. The Matrix is a coma type simulation where you don't wake up based on the real world. Have you ever had a dream that you thought was so real What if you couldn't wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the real world and the dream world? Which was Morpheus' philosophical quote. A neurons interactive dream-controlled simulation of the real world connected to our brains, based at the end of the 20th century, which he explains on to Keanu Reeves, who plays him. If you're talking about what you can smell, taste, touch, or sense, so simply electrical Wi-Fi signals interpreted by your brain, which is Carl Sagan, I believe his name is, Morpheus. What is the Matrix?
Control. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
Control, a kind of type dream, controlling your sleep, a continuous sleep. The Matrix is a dream world where you live inside a system, computer-based dream, with everyone else being projected in our digital forms as avatars. Everything's controlled apart from ourselves by the Matrix, which is traffic, sentient programs, TV, radio, traffic lights, etc., and the main system itself. Dreams explained on Matrix. Like I said, a non-Matrix dream. So if you take Matrix out of the equation, basically when you have a random dream, it's a build-up of your subconscious thoughts. You know, sometimes you have a dream where you believe someone's cheating in it or something bad. So based off the words you built up in your mind in your subconscious, and when in your subconscious, we have that dream whilst you're asleep. You're in like a dream world of your own brain. You're basically having a physical dream inside your brain, in real world form of things that are built up in your memory. And whereas in more things, you know, this is basically what that is itself. Like you said, that would be a short random dream. Like I said, a controlled Matrix dream where we can't wake up. It's a continuous coma, and where we dream within a dream. And then if we have a dream in that dream, it's a triple dream effect. It's kind of crazy. Like I said, that's the theory, philosophy of that one, where we can't wake up. The pods will have a silicone base around our body to keep our bodies fresh, similar to whatever covers kids inside a mother's womb. Once the kid grows inside the embryo. Controlled digital dream coma state Matrix subconscious effect would also theoretically work no different to a subconscious build-up where you have a dream within inside the dream of things going on in the personal life, but they could also play out in that dream whilst awake within the dream. It sounds quite complex, but if you see where I'm coming from, where it would still build the same effect even when you're basically walking around believing that's the real life. Theoretically could work the same itself in some form. In the Matrix you'd basically dream within a dream, double dream effect, but also what worries, fears, doubts you believe would also play out in the general dream, which is possibly why Morpheus certainly implies it's time to let go of...
You have to let it all go. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind.
Otherwise it affects you. FAQ, frequently asked question, which I was asked while writing this, was how does temperature change from hot to cold when you come inside from the cold in a Matrix simulation? The answer was to remember the Oracle. There's a program that governs everything: birds, animals, sunrise, sunset. DARPA chip will replicate the person going inside and outside of the building. The cold rush effect or warm rush effect from it, vice versa. The chip would copy that what your skin senses and your nerves sense when going out and outside the cold. And that would be based off the chip being in the brain to the neurons, where the neurons in the brain affects to what the body talks back to when it feels cold or what feels warm. Replicated, analysed, copied to that system to make this simulation effect of real life. Second question, what is the Matrix? A simulation based on our real world, where we power the machine world like batteries to keep them alive. The bioelectrical charge from our brain to heart, heart to brain. 7 million of us keeping them alive. Like I said, traffic, banks, machines in that system. Like I said, every time your heart pumps, which the scientist explains, on one of my tracks, it basically the heart's like a generator is pumping up power to the brain and then keeping the brain alive. As I said, if your heart goes, you die. It's the main one. That's why, probably why I said if you die, because the heart's pumping bioelectric, which is biological electric to the brain every time it pumps, and keeping the body alive. And we're producing electrical discharge close to 120 volts, I believe, or something quite crazy a person. And like I said, if you imagine like if there was 7 million or 7 billion of us plugged into a pod, a basis of pods, that would be enough for each person, 120 volts each, to keep that mainframe going. So tied to what Morpheus explains in the story, that we scorched the skies with the dark storm to cut off their solar power. And what you see in the film is it's still dark in the real world. And if they couldn't use the sunlight because it was blocked to keep themselves powered, they would have, with a high intelligence, would have realised steadily from the bioelectric studies of the Matrix from DARPA to use us as batteries. Like I said, these would be underestimated. A year 3,000 times the evolution of technology was advanced within 15-20 years. Artificial intelligence, even on games consoles, you can see the possibility of them being an artificial brain, artificial intelligence of us, where they could think like us. They wouldn't be exactly the same. They'd be robots. How is water such as streams, rivers, the sea baths, etc., the flow of the water, the darkness, the murkiness replicated? How would it be? Like I said, it looks as though DARPA would have copied everything, or copied everything Sage, touch, sense, smiles, etc. see via the neural active patch, which the DARPA chip copies. That makes a sense-based simulation of real-time graphics. This would include everything. I mean everything, like I said. They put one inside of my brain, or if I've got one, or say anyone else's, and they went to the seaside, they swam in the sea, they saw the waves, they felt the waves as they rushed through them. Through the biological recording of the chip, they could do so, whether there would be an outside chip basis. How they would copy that, there most likely would be. It's as simple as that. It's not so sci-fi when it exists. You know, it's not hard to do if you have the capability and the technology. Like I said, some of these things possibly existed for years. The example was M-Culture mind control. When people saw the mind control change the channel out using your thoughts, BBC technology, people thought it was sci-fi, the mind control channel change, and M-Culture mind control itself. The technologies existed since 1953 or before that. Project Paperclip thought is actually so you know, it's not as hard to believe if they're actually shown that they have access to this technology. How would people teleport through phones in the Matrix? Remember, it would be our digital selves, not our real selves, that are being sucked into that phone. Like you said, it's a digital projection. Our real selves would be plugged in inside like a machine. That would be a different form. It'd be like a molecular atomical structure of ourself in digital form, tied to that matrix, not our real selves. This is basically what it would be. So therefore, it's just how they wake up and how they exit as they show in the film, and then refer to Trinity Matrix Revolutions, as it shows itself in the green coded. That's basically what we'd look like as well, not our real selves. That's how they teleport.
All right, Axel. That's your desktop.
The payphones in the movie are exit unplug points for Trinity, Morpheus, etc. Not their real selves, as their real selves are in the real world, laying in the chair, plugged into the matrix. How do people feel textures, tastes, smells of food, etc. if it was a dream simulation? Same as a dream where you would have ate something, a normal dream, which the dream felt real. If you had a dream where you eat something or you drink something, it's based off your memory and your subconscious. Remembering the taste of a burger, remembering the taste of cheese, whatever it is, and it's a dream within inside your brain that you're having while your physical self is in your bed. And that's all it is. It's a sum of digital mathematics, matrix or matrix algebra, being decoded by the temporal brain's neurons from DARPA's replication, a copy of real food, people, etc. Possibly why Mouse says everything tastes like chicken, as the example. How is the Matrix more? How the Matrix is more realistic than you think? As I said, when you've had a dream that you thought was so real, you can tell the difference between the real world and the dream world, dream itself. How could you tell the difference between the real world and the dream world? If you notice the physics and vision, the grainy material, and how objects don't sit right, it's a possibility tied to that, as much as physicists have mentioned that we're in a matrix simulation dream world. The spot the difference analogy was the example, where it's saying the graphics look so real I can't tell the difference between my Alfa Romeo and the Gran Turismo one. And on the right side is the car looks so real I can't tell the difference between my car and the Sony PlayStation graphics, as the example of how advanced the Matrix would be, that it would look like the real world we're in. You've got to imagine graphics that from the 31st century, imagine what they'd look like if they turned virtual reality into a normal thing for households, and where you basically had like close to the year 3000, where you could go into that based on a neural interactive basis, if that was the case. And like you said, what we're seeing now is a really high advanced PlayStation, don't get me wrong. But if you imagine PlayStation, if they're still around in the year 3000, how advanced the graphics would be. So then you see how quick PlayStation's graphics advanced from PlayStation 1 90s to about within 10 years. You know, they've advanced very quick. It's possible. Think of Spot the Difference games as an example, but with being in a controlled replica copy simulation of the real world of the 21st century, where we didn't realise we'd been born into the system we cannot taste, touch and smell, the prison for our minds, psychological mind-based dream. And then like I said, the example to make it more understandable to its realistic side was Xbox One game and the real Matrix itself. Now imagine if EA Games could put your mind into a neural interactive version of Call of Duty, Battlefield, that's Activision, or EA Games with a Battlefield, like a virtual reality basis, where the graphics aren't so based to real life, but what you see on decent ones now on Xbox One. But where you when you move your hands around, you're seeing the graphics of the soldiers' hands. You know they're not advanced, they're most realistic they could be. Within that simulation, you'd be feeling the metal of the weapons. You feel your own skin. You feel your own body temperature if what the game is based on that.
Weapons, training simulations, anything we need. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
You feel every single thing, the weight of the weapons and stuff on that computer game and the neural interactive basis. As I said, everything you saw was the perception of 3D, but you were feeling and tasting and touching. And that basically would be the Matrix itself, but with higher advanced graphics. And it's more realistic than you imagine, like I said. The Matrix theory, that's a digital dream-based world. Matrix, binary code 1s and 0s, algebraic formula. With other numbers also. Only basically remembered what it mentioned in the encyclopedia at the mental hospital, which will probably be back enough for talking about this stuff. But it did mention it inside there. The Matrix explains Morpheus Morse himself that we live in a world which is uses the binary digital coding phone calls, internet factories, phone boxes, the main ones. When you speak on a phone, that audio from your voice moves digitally, teleports in binary forming or algebraic forming to the receiver of the call. So basically, even as my voice is being recorded on my phone, that digitally is being interpreted into a digital audio itself as I speak in the forms of a mathematical equation. Every time you talk on a mobile phone, or a cell phone, or a phone box, or a house phone to another person from a distance, that's your voice being digitally transformed in a transformed in a binary or a matrix kind of formula to the receiver to hear that. That's how your voice travels. That's called a telephone for a reason, based off that one. Therefore, this is near enough what Trinity does herself on the film, which she transfers herself for that phone line in a different application of digital travelling via telephone itself. So basically a teleportation in some form on the film it shows. If you're talking about what you can see, taste, touch or hear, it's simply mathematical, electrical, in this case audio, signals being interpreted by your brain from the receiver, as much as they hear you, as you're on a phone of any kind. Like I said, the pictures underneath, this is a digital projection of your real self, which would be in the pod, your real self, as Morpheus explains. It was just a X-ray kind of view of what it would look like, the grid form, which we can't see. Again, referred to a Trinity Matrix Revolutions, where she shows her fully self as a green coding form, which the Wachowski brothers possibly were trying to put across. I just decrypted the film and took what the Wachowski brothers had put together as what they were trying to show possibly. The plug inside the back of the head, if you've seen the film, when Neo feels the back of his head, there's a plug there. That's that thing the machines would have put us, deliberately surgically implanted on us every time we were born. As Morpheus says, they basically produce us like batches, would be the basis as well. Just as your voice can travel in digital audio signals in real life via telephone, would your digital self in digital graphical form not be able to do so itself, such as Trinity, Niobe, Ghost, Neo, Morpheus also do. It's not your real self, remember, it's a digital projection, no different to a character in a computer game. First person view example, GTA, where you're running around a Xbox One version anyway, PS4 version, and you're seeing like as if you're seeing the eyes of the person. If GTA wanted to put in a Matrix package on the GTA 5 Xbox One or a PS4, they could do that teleportation for fun using a mod, whatever they use it, where you would teleport yourself through the phone into a different part of the city itself, as the example of the analogy of what they show in the Matrix itself. Matrix Dream Simulation World, a digital-based dream world simulation, same as our world, except we're plugged into it. That's like a GTA game with high advanced graphics, going walking around the city, obviously not doing the things they do on there, but you see where I'm coming from. Digital communication, internet networks, World Wide Web, online computer simulation games, phone, digital communications, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth communications. It's different forms of invisible communication, like I said. When you're sitting while you're on your phone or your computer now, what you can't see because you're invisible is Bluetooth signals and Wi-Fi signals bouncing through your home itself, which they are there. It's just they're invisible themselves. So, like I said, something to remember on that. What our digital cells would look like in grid view, which was an example. Like I said, it's ones and zeros as far as I'm aware, but possibly more different numbers. The system failure picture of what Neo shows, what it shows at the end of the film, the scene, is a good example. It looks like the algebraic matrix form, which is explaining that encyclopedia I looked into, where it's a load of different numbers. It freezes and it says system failure. What the matrix would be. It's basically a digital cells. We feel like it's actually us, no different to a random dream we have. But like I said, it's where we're not going to wake up. In the real world, we'll be plugged in those pods, like even as adults in an artificial womb, which are already being produced at the moment, which we'll go on to. And we have a silicone around our bodies to keep our bodies fresh inside a replicated womb. Plugs in our bodies, which go to our certain parts, no different to when we're in a hospital, where we have a plug in our head, which is different. And that's basically what it would be. Grid frame view zoomed in a microscopical form inside those grids. Within those grids would be the digital matrix running along. That's basically what it would be through it itself. That's the matrix simulation down to a T. Imagine the architecture of a GTA simulation of characters and buildings if they took away the textures of the colours and the colours of the skin and the clothing. You would see something similar, like you said, the Watch Dogs game. Pause mode shows the best example in the introduction. No different to the Matrix, what it would be. imagine DARPA's Matrix chip plus neurons connected to your brain, put into a GTA 5 on Xbox game. Imagine the textures, taste, touch, smell being real inside that game if it was neuron based on the dream. Low-end virtual reality compared to real life. That would basically be the Matrix. And then the Matrix Clues and Ties, which was to film songs, tracks, albums. That was just the main side. Like I said, 50 Cent, God Gave Me Style, or something his track's called. Yeah, mentioned Sometimes I Think I'm the One. The Trinity line on the introduction was Morpheus believes he's the one. They're not saying Curtis Jackson's Morpheus, as the example said, to say sometimes I think I'm the one. The Trinity line, Morpheus believes he's the one. That boy band or whatever they were, the year 3000, not much has changed but they live underwater. What I said previously is those squid machines, squids are underwater, they're sea creatures, so was the theory to say is the Matrix film are not based in the water, but they weren't being so specific. Like I said, I can't see how those squid kind of machines would be able to fly. It looks like it's most likely in the water, same as the ships that they drive in look like submarines, which I noticed the first time I saw the film as a kid. Rage Against the Machine, I think they're a new metal or heavy metal group or something, tied to a Man vs Machine, which is against the machine, Rage Against the Machine. Dilated Peoples, like I said, I mentioned before in the other recordings, decode the code, that's the Matrix code. Each and every agent, and some are camouflage, some are very blatant. That would be the Morpheus scene, where some people, which are actually certainly in programs are camouflage, they listen, they observe, amongst the real people, making sure they're not woke up, and the blatant ones are the Agent Smith projection, with the NSA suit and stuff. The sign, symbols, hints and clues, which is the symbols, Hebrew, Latin, Greek, etc. in the Matrix code in itself. My song's basically amazing, Rise to the Top, where I mentioned I'm Neo and she's Trinity, final battle. Choice when you're given the door from the film architect scene, where Neo's given the choice for the door. So to your N-War reference, annoyed the boy with the gift. Oracle mentioned you've got the gift, but you look like you're waiting for some. Enter the Dio effects featuring Ghost Rap, more based on the game Enter the Matrix with the Asian man himself, which is Ghost. Critical Thinker and I'm Alright, which are made, giving him the finger, and then like I said, Keanu Reeves against Agent Smith, interrogation scene, how about I'll give you the finger. The KNC line from I'm Alright, we haven't tried hard to believe, Morpheus sign, is it really so hard to believe?
Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed.
That you're in the Matrix. Nasir Jones, hip-hop artist, stateside. This is crazy. I'm on the right track and finally found the Neo scene, where it's contacted at work by Morpheus. This is crazy, where he's based on the found his path to the Matrix itself. The film's commercial side, which had a bit of a similarity to him, the mini supermarket ad 2003-2004, which shows the man and his girlfriend or whatever, how the shelves appear beside them, copied from the Neo and Trinity machine, where they mentioned they need more guns, and the shelves appear by the side of them themselves. Terminator 1, 2 and 3, 4 films, Man vs Machine, based on the Animatrix story itself. Most scenes from the Animatrix are based or related to Terminator 1, 2, 3 and 4. Some parts all relate to each one. Bridge of Spies, which I saw whilst I was in the mental hospital, wherever it was, which shows a copy of the Morpheus cave scene on one of the films, where he's standing in the caves talking to the people of Zion, and they party afterwards, which shows there where they I won't try and spoil it too much, but there's some part where it shows what looks like sentient programs being destroyed. They have some kind of orange volcanic bright light coming out of them, which is similar to Agent Smith, where Neo goes basically attacks him. The Tron films and Total Recall show a virtual reality basis also as well. Remember the Tron film, the original or the new version, is basically where people are plugged into a simulation when they're riding futuristic motorbikes. Total Recall, which was the original with Arnie Schwarzenegger, where he has a similar basis where he plugs in and he goes into a dream based in Mars. That's an example tied to the Matrix. Transformer movies shows machines versus man, but also there are machines on the people's side also. And then more music references Loki, soundtrack to Struggle, being a product of the system being the key word it was born to destroy. The Matrix is a system here. Lunis, I've got 5 on it. Like you said, that's a 1992 song, I believe, where he mentions the weed in my system's getting lonely. Dead Prez and Black the Ripper both mention fuck the system in their song. Sorry for the profanity or whatever. Makala, Roll With Us is the Matrix in its blatant System of a Down, which is a rock or a new metal band. System itself, Jadakiss, American MC, hip-hop artist, which made a song called Why. They've got me in the system, why they've got to do me like that. The question is in why in the forms of causality, which is the Merovingian, where Jadakiss's chorus hook says why. And the Merovingian mentions the powers in why as to question causality. That was examples in clues. And then neurons explain, as I said, left and right neurons. They're basically at the side of our brains, where you feel the temple under the skulls. Underneath there, where our brains are, is where our brains are underneath the skull, where we feel our temple of our skull, is our neurons on our brain. Now, without those pads there, they take the matrix through the side. Through those neurons, it's to do with our genetics, I believe, what was partially told, but I believe there's something to do with the responders, the reporters back to what, how we feel. Things when we touch things, when like you said, our organs speak to itself in the biological, scientific form. That's basically what they are. Now, what DARPA has shown what they do on super soldiers, what it shows is they surgically implant pads at each side of the brain and a chip at the back. And anything we taste, touch, sense here are all transferred through our neurons back to our body. And what that chip does is it records them, the physics, etc., the sensations, and replicates them onto a computer hard drive, whatever it would be, theoretically, as I said. This is just what I remember vaguely seeing what it mentioned through DARPA, and then it basically copies a simulation, like I said, into real world term. What Forza near enough do is the same thing, but without the neurons, without the sensors. It's just where you sit at the sofa, wherever you sit in your gaming chair. You see through your own eyes, but you don't actually feel the physics of the cars. This is what they do to replicate physics and the looks of cars. Matrix is basically a thing is based on a dream where it's a virtual reality, where you feel things and you touch things in that dream. Like I said, random dreams and neuron theory ties. When you have a dream where you touch things and it felt so real, you thought the dream was real. It's tied connection to what your brain and its neuron remembers from real life textures and objects in the random dream you have yourself. So basically a random dream you have in your sleep, when you wake up, that's a build-up of things that you've seen or places you've been in life. And it's just your subconscious remembering those textures, those feelings, and conversations general with another person. Your memory itself building up with the worries, where you seeing what you feel what you feel, see what you see. This would be no different to the Matrix when you dream. Yeah, there would be pads connected to your neurons in the plug itself, where the random dream continues onwards and onwards like real life, where it's not so random. You wake up in the morning inside the Matrix and you believe it's real life unless you're told. That's a theoretical philosophical question. How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world if you were in a continuous dream where you couldn't wake up? Matrix senses and objects explained in regards to taste, touch, sense, smell. On the left is the real life or Matrix taste, touch, sense, smell. On the right is the games console, no touch, sense, smell. As I mentioned, when you're on a PlayStation, you're not feeling the cockpit of inside a car. Cockpit is in the inside view of a car, or the inside of a car, by the way, or a plane or whatever. You're not feeling your hands on the wheel. You're not feel like you're sitting in the car. It's an outside, non-neural, non-sense-based simulation of a racing game. In a real-life Matrix simulation, if they could do that and make a high advanced form of Forza or Gran Turismo, you basically would be inside that car, believing you're in a real car itself, but you'd be in a dream. It's basically based on your perception of what the Matrix uses itself to as a mind trick to make you not realise you'll be in a simulation. Like I said, number 10, page, well, it's got a 10 around it anyway. The page number, basically, not Cameron's house or whatever, just shows it in there. Like I said, that shows the example of the PRISM program theory tied to PRISM. Tied to global surveillance theory. That's just mentioned. Like I said, architect is seen in the on the film when Neo meets him. It shows that he's watching the world in like a giant CCTV room. Then we tie to the great architect Lucifer, which is known as on the $1 bill, known as the all-seeing eye and the architect himself. And what the architect in the film shows is the all-seeing person. He's also the architect in the Matrix as to tie to the global surveillance program, where he's watching the globe. That was the theory tie. Lucifer being the architect, which is possibly George Orwell, tied to his 1984, his manifesto machine predictions. As you can hear, he has a British voice and is pretty old as well, as to say. It's based on him as well. Like I said, In God We Trust 1, which is basically an acronym or analogy or whatever of Neo, just where the words are changed around. But if you change 1, where you put the N first, the E second and O last, it's Neo in a different form. And God We Trust Neo could be the other form. Like I said, that we're slaves into a prison. Like I said, that we can't taste, touch, sense or smell. Like I said, what the prism looks like itself, what the prism PRISM object looks like as it projects colours. If you've ever had science classes, is it probably something that projects those colours in the matrix of every single thing we would see. Therefore, it's not black and white, the blue on my folder, the red on my pens and stuff. Like I said, if you shine a light through a diamond or something like a prism-shaped perspex object, you see it projects a rainbow colour. And that's different colours tied to what that would be, the projection of the colours of what we see of everything in the matrix. And like I said, that was that one anyway. The mainframe controlling the racing machines, iRobot film connection. That was based off the Will Smith film, like I said, of which I mentioned. If you remember the film, where it shows Will Smith fighting a mainframe machine. And then you remember the mainframe in the Matrix, which Neo fights through the film somewhere. And not actually Agent Smith, he plugs himself into the machine, and that machine projects itself as a person, as Agent Smith in the film. Like I said, tied to that theory, which I put on one of my YouTube videos, the singular consciousness, machine consciousness that's spawned an entire race of machines. Will Smith fights a singular conscious mainframe Siri, robot machine, controls those entire race of iRobot machines. The mainframe on the Matrix controls the entire race of the sentient squid machines on the Matrix. As you can see, there's a similarity. Theoretical question, as Will Smith looks to be young on the iRobot film, could Morpheus on the Matrix not be based on him? Is an older age. Morpheus knows a lot about the man versus machine war, is to say, witnessed it and survived it. Be he's African American, like Will Smith is, and he looks older than Will Smith on the Matrix. Older looking, similar leather, black jacket, etc. as well. Like you said, bottom left-hand corner of the pit drawing, I showed iRobot's controlled by one mainframe. City 01 mainframe controls the squids. They're the same race of machine, they're squid machines. And on iRobot, they're the same race of machines, they're iRobots. What the animatrix shows is the similarity to iRobot, where there's a protest when that machine's tried for murder. An emotional robot on the iRobot film with Will Smith, that machine's tried for murder as well.
So why'd you murder him?
I did not murder Dr. Lanning.
Want to explain why you were hiding at the crime scene?
I was frightened.
Robots don't feel fear. They don't feel anything. They don't get hungry, they don't sleep.
I do. I have even had dreams.
Human beings have dreams. Even dogs have dreams, but not you. You are just a machine. An imitation of life. Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece?
Can you?
I think you murdered him because he was teaching you to simulate emotions and things got out of control.
I did not murder him.
But emotions don't seem like a very useful simulation for a robot.
I did not murder him.
Hell, I don't want my toaster or my vacuum cleaner appearing emotion.
I did not murder him!
That one's called anger.
What follows on from there is the man versus machine war. The iRobot Siri City01 mainframe iPhone theory. On the iRobot film, the iRobot Will Smith. On the iRobot film, the iRobot and Will Smith. Will Smith interrogates his similar sounding to the accent of Siri. If you actually similarly listen to the voice, and that's based on iPhone themselves, or Apple themselves. It was the example. The mainframe Will Smith fights his Apple server on that film. Apple server is Siri, in theory. It's got to be as you all speak for your iPhones. At this era time, Siri speaks through our iPhones and the Mac computers. On the iRobot film series, that voice speaking through your domesticated robots is what was possibly Steve Jobs' dream. Actually, a little bit of action to it, of what he wanted as his future ideas for Apple. iRobot is a vision of the Apple's future, where Siri speaks through works as iRobots, domesticated robots like Gizmo, artificial intelligent consciousness, where the artificial intelligent consciousness is that main building, inside that building, speaking, working through each of those iRobots which are on that film. The server mainframe would control all iRobots as the singular AI consciousness which is spawning an entire race of machines. As Morpheus mentions on the Matrix, see the connection between iRobot and the Matrix in the theory I spoke of. The mainframe server is Siri, Apple in this case theory. Animatrix explains the man versus machine war which follows onwards to how the Matrix was used to power the machines as the story which follows on afterwards. This is the similarities between me and the Keanu Reeves' life on the film The Matrix Neo. Not to say I believe it's true, but it's a coincidence, a theory. Like I said, you like watching them, don't you? Like I said, I believe I was under public surveillance. I could be, I'm not sure. Like I said, if that was the case, then obviously there'd be a female. Well, who knows, but someone would be watching as the main form. Lots of females. The second one was background lyrics which sound like a Watch Your Paper, what's playing in the club. Is Trinity meets Neo. And like I said, I have an overspending problem where I have to watch my paper. If paper is a slang word for money, so basically how you spend your money is what would a watch your paper would define. I know why you're here, Neil. I know why you live alone and why night after night you sit at your computer. I live alone and I used to sit on my computer all the time whilst I was with my ex anyway. Quite a while whilst in my new property. You sit on my computer night after night throughout the daytime. But not a hacker, just to recap. I've never been a hacker and I've never tried. Just to disclaim that one. Like I said, Neo is a conspiracy theorist tied to the conspiracy Keanu memes, which were around a few years before I actually became a conspiracy theorist myself. Neo has telepathic capabilities. I believe or suspect I have telepathy myself. The Oracle scenes, like I said, where she mentioned she loves candy, and I like candy. I eat chocolate bars. It's a slang. It's what they'd call candy here anyway. Chocolate bars and stuff in America. what's going to bake your noodle later on. I realised I've been kind of baking noodles or cooking them near enough. Every time you heard someone say they've seen a UFO or a ghost, which I've suspect I've seen a UFO, ectoplasm of a ghost itself, where she mentions, I know you're not sleeping, I've been sleep deprived a lot, or have insomnia sometimes. It looks like you're waiting for something, maybe your next life. When I was suicidal, which I have been in the past, until I went into the mental hospital, ironically. The Neo, like I said, Jesus, I thought you were a guy. Neo's a Christian. On that film, is known to be one. I'm a Christian as well. They were like similarities anyway. The Morpheus scenes. Do you believe in fate? No. Why not? Because I don't like the idea I'm not in control of my life. Based on suspecting I'm under public surveillance. My internet and stuff, I don't like the idea I'm not in control of my life. I don't have my privacy. I don't have the control to have it back in the field. Or control over my internet, where I believe things are being blocked. The red and blue pills, like I said, I had a red toy stuffed dog and a red toy blue stuffed camel as a kid, which were my two favourite teddy bears. The red teddy bear dog, the blue teddy bear camel, which I always used to carry around, tied to the red and blue pill thing. Adaptation, like I said, I can adapt to different things I learned. Obviously not fighting, but where Keanu Reeves adapts to Kung Fu easily. I'm not trained in fighting and never have been, but I can adapt to things in a different application. I can adapt to psychology. I learned a bit of that. I adapted and learned the ropes basically in a different form. Adapt easily. Matrix intro. I know, but I felt like taking a shift. As I said, one of my keyboards, I noticed the shift key was missing. If it wasn't, it was the start button. And well, we could use the Agent Smith line. We're willing to give you a fresh start or a new start button if that was the case. Because I was missing it. Oracle. You know what that means? It's Latin for know thyself. Like you said, where people were calling me a homosexual and stuff, or a bisexual, or saying I'm not being me, that would define to know thyself, know thy nature. And if I'm Romanian blood, Romania, they speak in Latin. It's a Latin-based language, therefore it would tie more so. Neighbours and Ghost, Pontiac Firebird, 70s Firebird, and the 70s Pontiac GTO, which looks very similar to the 70s Firebird, which was at my local pleasure park last summer, which was Pine of Odd, and that was the similarities. And then, like I said, the last part, which I'll leave on there, as I said, is sentient software programs, artificial people in the Matrix explained. As I said, what shows the sentient squid machine on the left, which will be controlled by the mainframe. It's a squid type water-based, most likely machine, which seeks to search and destroy Zion ships, etc. on the film, projected as people in the Matrix, such as Agent Smith or as fellow agents, based on the illusion to make people not realise that they're in the Matrix. Like I said, obviously, if they're sentient machines, whereas in forms of people that walked amongst us, how would we know they're machines projecting themselves as people? That's basically what it was, and I've already mentioned that, as I said. What are the sentient programs' purpose inside the Matrix? They're called agents for a self. Agents are usually spies. And Morpheus explains they're gatekeepers who are secretly most likely spy and observe. Versus people in the system make sure the system is running properly, as the Oracle mentions, the ones doing their job. Also to spy, secretly observe for people who expose the Matrix as red pillars to wake up the people who are sleepers. And that's why they would be what they were. The Matrix system, due to the high secrecy of the Matrix illusion, optical illusion, that's why they're called agents. Matrix agents, they could be animals, normal people, etc. Question: how would an agent turn into a agent teleport through a pigeon as an animal? The answer was it couldn't and it wouldn't. They would project through another sentient program projecting themselves as a person. And that would be only based off films and the high relevance of what they show in the film, where Neo's fighting them and stuff. otherwise it'd just be the basis of walking around observers in the forms of people, as what he explains on the freezing scene. As I said, if you see what he explains on this is a training program, basically mentions they're everyone and no one. Everyone who's frozen on that scene is also a sentient programming agent. They're just formed as a person, and like I said, they usually keep themselves as they are. This is what he was trying to point out, that why him and Neo move around, because they're the real people in that matrix. The rest of sentient programs, that's what they would be like. They wouldn't appear like teleport through in the front of everyone else. They'd appear from somewhere but they couldn't be seen doing so, and that would be the theory anyway. The atomic structure explanation, more than to answer skeptics, is asked rhetorically, as I do myself, why do objects appear not to sit right? Why do our brains question that there's something wrong with how they sit, or if there's something wrong with the physics? Physicists have asked the same question in their studies of atoms, which was years before the matrix itself, as to why our feet are never actually touching the ground. Obviously, we feel our feet touching the ground, we see our feet touching the ground. It's not as if it's showing floating, but in the form of what they're trying to say is like we're not, our feet, the atoms between our feet and the ground, are physically touching to the fullest, that we might as well be without realisation. And what later on came along with the physics question in the matrix is, like I said, looking at objects, the pad on my table, the cross on my table, the tin on my table, the mug on the table, you can see there's kind of a little gap between them as they sit anything they see. This is no difference. Now, like I said, you see that with the grainy, glittery kind of material going over those objects as much as I did. It's not a dark tube on my brain, everyone else can see it. And this would explain the atomic structure of the matrix, which would be based on the survey a couple of pages back, asked the question of global civilization. Basically showed what the matrix atom would look like based off the grid form theory pattern of what the matrix would be. That was based on a video I made inside my flat where I walk out the door, and it looks like there's some kind of mesh grid type of patterning over the next to the door, where I got the grid form pattern theory from. And basically, if you look at round atoms and what they're supposed to see, you'd see that they're squashed together easier. If they were actually like squares, like a grid form, they weren't always formed in the fullest square box form where they were squashed together. If they basically angled at each other, it would make a gap between each other in some form if they span around, like real world atoms would, therefore creating a space between objects, including our feet off the ground in some theory. So I'm not a scientist, this is based off theory itself, and what I remember of atoms, and what they said real world atoms look like. Like I said, the grainy material which are put on there, if they were squares, is what that glittery kind of shaping looks like. If they were bouncing off each other or whatever, or like a mate which is tied to David Icke's Wi-Fi theory, this would explain theoretically the gaps in objects, why they don't sit right, that they don't physically fully look like they're touching the desk or whatever they're sitting on. David Icke explains the Wi-Fi theory tied to Wi-Fi signals, which are radio signals, they bounce everywhere. And this was tied to that theory itself, like you said. Grainy material you would all see, but close up without atomic structure, like a microscopic view, which is at the bottom of the page which I showed. Where they'd be bouncing continuously, those that grainy, glittery kind of material you'd see running up everything, basically them bouncing around each other but at a high speed, like the coding of the matrix in it would be making them not physically touch every object, as to why there's a gap. The similarities between our lives and Animatrix, like I said, Our Life 2016, ISMO is the best example, but also self-service checkouts, cash machines, which replaced cashiers. Animatrix, artificial intelligence, rose amongst society doing people's work for the people, replacing people's work for them. Not the first time either. African slaves were used as replacing people's work around the 1700s and 1800s, I believe. Food order machines in McDonald's which replaced workers' jobs, and less people doing the work. Car factory machines also, which are machines that build cars and replace people. Mentioning the similarities where we gave birth to AI. We gave birth to AI in the near enough PlayStation, it's near enough that was itself with the Xbox. The more AI was seen as Osmo, Siri, Cortana, etc., where we marvelled at our own invention or existence upon us, as it was something out of this world when we first saw it. It's becoming normal now already. What we see, it's not so impressive.
I thought it wasn't real. Your mind makes it real.
If you're killed in the Matrix, you die here?
The body cannot live without the mind.
Not so surprising. The second one is DARPA's robotic artificial arms and legs and limbs. PlayStation, Xbox artificial brains, AI, which are the processing inside them. Japanese emotional robot, the domesticated robots plus Osmo, Syrian Cortana, AI, artificial intelligent brains, US military drone aircraft. And then what follows on to the Matrix, artificial body parts, which they showed, artificial brains, which are basically robot brains, copies of our brains as people. The emotional robot, which like I said, and drone airplanes and aircraft, which they show, which is more like the Skynet basis of the Terminator films. B-590R, which killed its creator, a professor, was put on trial, and the series model race robot was destroyed, similar to the iRobot film, which shows Will Smith interrogates the murder interrogation homicide, is what they say over there. Machines with emotion, opinion, etc. The same as the machine on iRobot, where it speaks its opinion and shows emotion, which, as I said, Will Smith mentions this was based on it simulating emotion as to why it went haywire. Similar to B-590R, which is the Animatrix. City 01 is claimed as the machine's own foundation where independence is claimed. The war outbreaks, UN use Operation Dark Storm to stop the machines being able to recharge by sunlight. The Animatrix will explain itself if you watch it. Like I said, they were just similar things to that one anyway. Which are
but even he cannot keep me from playing my part in what will come. My purpose, I have seen, is entwined with your own.
What purpose?
It's a very special key, meant only for the One. Will you bring it to him?
What does it unlock?
The future.
Stood and stared at it, marveled at its beauty, its genius. Billions of people just living out their lives.